Yeah. I'll react if I had to. Put some things in the past too, and don't let them distract you, but react if you have to.
Kevin, what's your title at IRC?
Family Program Director. That's what I call him.
Family Program Director.
Oh, we're started.
Yeah.
Wow, that was... Well, it's kind of hard because we've been fiddle fucking around for an hour with these cameras and microphones and... But it's working. Under table hand jobs.
Hey, I wanted to point something out real quick.
What's up?
I found my Pondoff's Anonymous hat.
You're wearing it.
And missing. It's a little worse for wear, but yeah.
I've been banging in it. I like it.
I know.
So, Pondoff's Anonymous, episode 3, right?
That's right.
Season 2, episode 3.
Yeah.
Here we are at our permanent home, our brand new studios. Is it the studio?
Studio. Yeah.
Studios. Here at Illinois Recovery Center. So Pondoff's Anonymous, hosted by Illinois Recovery Center, episode 3. Been looking forward to this episode. Hi, Jeff.
Take a picture, a little selfie.
Been looking forward to this conversation since we got started with this mission. One of my favorite, smartest new friends, Kevin Bunten. Welcome to Pondoff's Anonymous.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me on.
Can we hear him? Does he need to get closer to the mic?
Put it in your mouth.
What? I knew we were going to get there.
Kevin, Kevin is a gift, man. Kevin gets uncomfortable how much I praise him.
And you've never attended a group that I've led, so it's like
I've seen people's lives transform.
really suck. Pondoff wouldn't know it.
Well, I've seen people's lives and their families be transformed by your work.
For that.
Yes. And I've heard from Eric and Jacob, who've worked with you for a long time now, quite a bit. And anytime I'm in conversation with you, I make sure that, as hard as it is to not move my lips as much and open my ears, one of those guys, when you talk, people can get wiser if they listen.
So
I look at Jacob.
Let's move on with the interview.
You got it. He's getting uncomfortable. Kevin is the director of the family program here at Illinois Recovery Center.
Yes. Jacob doesn't like it when I put it that way, so it's Family Program Director.
Family program director. Right.
Nice.
And creator. We'll ump it up a little bit.
Creator, yeah. With my co-conspirator in creating.
I'm going to tell you guys this, and this is, again, going to sound kind of like I'm, bullshitting and you're blowing smoke up your ass. But to this day, people ask me what sets us apart, and I say it's our family program. And I've heard that in my treatment center, the one I went to almost 11 years ago, did not have anything resembling a family program. I heard some treatment centers had it and then got rid of it, which is interesting because I don't know how you have recovery without working with the family of the addict. And family is and I'll let you define it, Kevin, but family to me is it can be whoever your closest people are.
I mean, there's family of origin, family of choice.
Sure.
A lot of programs went under with COVID, I think. We really had a lot of brilliant people at, can I mention?
Yeah.
We all met at Sauna League, and they hit the ground, at least with regard to getting the program on Zoom, hit the ground running. That was mostly Jacob's doing, I think.
During COVID?
Yeah. And I just sat there and talked in front of the screen. Gateways doesn't seem to have one anymore. I kind of created that program and they lost it, but it is what it is. So.
Gateway is, we work with all of them. Gateway is a state-funded treatment center. Is that accurate?
They have both state and insurance.
Got it.
Initially, they were state-funded. Way back in the day, it was DOC programming.
Oh, wow.
And then they morphed. But they were pretty solid insurance program there.
Okay.
I haven't been there in 7 years, so I don't really know.
I know we've got a good working relationship with them, and there's not enough beds for the epidemic, and that's the first problem.
For real. That's very true.
Well, before we get ahead of ourselves, Kevin, why don't you give us a little bit of your background, where you came from, what your passion and career entails, and how it's kind of, because you have a job and you do this also, but they're all tied together.
I have a private practice in O'Fallon, Illinois. See couples, families, individuals. My background is I actually had been studying to be a Catholic priest for a number of years. I knew at 24 that if I was to get ordained by 26, that there was going to be trouble and I was going to be on the front of the St. Louis Post.
Oh.
I don't think I would have used the term addict, although it had been used in reference to me.
Okay.
By close friends. But I was drawn, I think, to community life for a lot of reasons, one of which was somebody needs to keep an eye on me. But when people ask me the question of was I active in my addiction in community? Yes. Another reason for me to seriously consider moving on from it. But that was, those were really happy times for me. I look back quite happily at the spirituality, at a degree, and I usually just tell people I have a degree in theology. It's a Master of Divinity.
Yeah, I was just going to say MDiv because I've heard you and my wife talk about, nerd out on that shit. MDiv.
I still love that stuff. It was an incredibly formative time in my life, but again, people often talk about the reasons they leave community. Mine was mostly loneliness. And
that's interesting.
The desire to be married, to have kids, to have a partner there.
So you said leave community because you were lonely. Is that the Catholic?
Yeah.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
I was in the end, I was a Franciscan.
We brought up Richard Rohr already.
Richard Rohr, I get roared all the time.
I love Richard.
Have you seen Rohr? Have you heard?
He's a wonderful, wonderful person.
Yeah. Is he the
Sure he is.
Franciscan monk?
Oh, golly. Probably, other than St. Francis.
Besides St. Francis, yeah.
Or Pope Francis.
Right.
Oh, no, he's a Jesuit.
Okay, yeah.
One of my best friends, like a big brother, big Buddhist, he loves that Rohr. He always fucking roars me. Rohr, doesn't it? Rohr said that.
Yeah, one of my best friends.
It's always when I'm doing bad shit, too, or saying something smart ass. Hey, you should hear Rohr.
Well, Rohr's big on the Enneagram.
Yeah.
Enneagram guy?
Yeah.
What's your number?
I'm such an 8.
4. Yeah. And
you fucking dorks.
Oh, you're absolutely an 8.
There can only be 1 4. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
If I had a nickel for every time my wife says you're such an 8.
Oh, you are. That's why you and Jacob were having issues over the shit getting
He couldn't figure this shit out. It pisses me.
You're awfully quiet over there, Jake.
I don't know nothing about
Enneagram. You're going to take the test. Can you send him the link? I want him to take that.
Number 1. No. That's good.
We'll get
this
somewhere.
I can find a link for it.
Ashley is obsessed with this shit.
Oh, it's great.
She's a 2.
It's very Jungian, I think.
What are 8s attracted to?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a real
Hot. It's good.
Hot.
It's ass. Church girls.
Yeah.
Sorry. Kevin said before we should have been recording the whole time because we had great content while Jacob was fucking finger blasting.
Fixing and making sure the shit worked right. That's what that's called.
He said, I've met a lot of people from Belleville since meeting you, and I kind of get it. Something along those lines. I said, what, grotesque?
Right.
Similar sense of humor.
Reads a lot of 8s.
Virile, adolescent kind of.
Right. I get along with my 11-year-old son.
This has come up every time. I mean, in the conversation.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every morning.
We're here to talk about Illinois Recovery's family program and what makes it different.
So you left friarhood.
You were still wanting my background.
Yeah, because I mean, you've well traveled.
I was in love, and I left, moved to New York City, was received at or accepted at Fordham University.
The Rams. Go Rams.
Yeah, go Rams. Which just means I said, I'll pay this tuition, and they said, sure, come on in.
Yes.
Fordham's Jesuit, right?
Yes. Yes.
Salute. I know.
That's a Catholic thing. We always joke that, Jesuits aren't really Catholic. But they they tend to be the smartest guys in the room, by far.
Do they know it?
Oh God, yeah.
Okay.
Yes. But anyway, I was accepted at Fordham and loved it. There's nothing like going back to school as an adult when it's what you want to study. I mean, I loved theology, and I'd be up till 2 a.m. reading theology. But going back at 30, 31 years old was just a totally different. And theology was really super rigorous. I mean, we'd have, 10, 20-page research papers with footnotes and MLA styling.
Now, MLA, I remember that anagram.
Well, in every class, you probably had 30, 40-page term papers at the end. And, I get to this class of warm and fuzzy counselors at Fordham, and you get 3-page reflection paper once a week, and they're whining and, oh my God, this is so hard. I could crap out a page reflection just like that. Anyway, sorry about that. You can edit that.
No, we don't edit. Unless you skullfuck your high school football coach. Like our last guest did. We got his name on there.
So I got my degree in theology, had some really wonderful internships, and you really aren't sure what you like to do. It's amazing. I had done recovery meetings and done some work in recovery. Not some. I had in Denver and in Chicago. I got to New York City, and there was a part of me that was just like, oh, I'm going to be seeing all these meetings that Bill W. might have attended. And I got onto the island of Manhattan and did not think I was an addict, didn't think about addiction, didn't think about recovery meetings at all. And that was a weird sort of respite.
Interesting.
2 solid years of school, 2.5 years of school. Really focused. For the most part, very happy.
Set up in the Bronx.
No, I was at Lincoln Center.
Oh, okay.
Just off of Central Park.
Yeah.
That's the college.
The Bronx has Arthur Avenue. It's the best Little Italy in the country, besides the Hill in St. Louis. So I'm up in Bronx a lot.
That reference to the Italians in there.
Yeah, sorry. Pay my homage.
So, what do you say? I had the back then in 99, I graduated in 99, and we used to have the 1-800 phone number, and I realized I could be at any payphone anywhere and call home and say, hey, I'm at the library at Fordham, honey, I'll talk to you later tonight. And that's, one of the things I warn clients about is unaccounted for time. That's when my addiction really kicked up.
Sure.
Probably about a month before graduating. Just want you to know, I did my schooling.
Yeah.
I'm still 15 hours short.
But it just went south really fast. It was about 9 months of just fucking, insanity and hell and destructive to my relationship. That was a miserable time.
That sounds familiar to probably, I know Jacob and I, who've since been in recovery, to anybody's last. That sounds, I've heard that before. The last year isn't the best time of our lives.
No, it was horrible. It's just, let's face it, I wasn't addicted to pulling my fingernails out, right?
Mm-hmm.
There were moments of dopamine buzz, but and lots of oxytocin buzz too. But was horrible. I was enslaved to it.
Sure.
Couldn't stop myself. So, bounce forward, as I had mentioned to you earlier, I really feel there was a little clinic that I was working at in my addiction and post-addiction. I just neglected the hell out of that department in Jersey City.
Okay.
And I worked there for a while. They downsized us. We ran out of money, lo and behold. How do you do that? It was at that time, I watched the second tower drop from outside.
I was just going to ask if you were in Manhattan on 9/11.
Everybody in Jersey City was crowded around Fairmount Avenue. You could look down Fairmount. It was Fairmount or Montgomery? Montgomery. You could look down and across the river was the
It's right there.
Wood Train Centers. Yeah.
Oh,
Trade Center.
family in Staten Island, we take the free ferry to Battery Park. I mean, there's Jersey. When I first was old enough to go, I was like, "Is that man? No, that's Jersey City." Sorry,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not Newark. It's Jersey City, and it's literally right there.
And it's where Jersey City is where the Statue of Liberty is, really.
Yeah,
Liberty State Park.
I say that free ferry from if anybody wants to see like the statue in Lower Manhattan, take it back and forth and then walk up. You just get on it. It's 30 minutes to Staten Island and back. Yeah. So you were there when that happened, and you were counseling. Was that what you were?
That was my first real counseling at a clinic.
Okay.
For poor people. Another reason to feel horrible. My lack of work and work ethic kind of did a number on their bottom line. I'm certain of it. So amends to be made. Was made, I think. But I had something like 13 months of stability by the time they had cut us loose. And I, for whatever reason, my dad used to say, I remember him saying, put 45 resumes out, fill out 45 applications. So I'm just like faxing the hell out of any.
You're aging yourself. I'm saying the word fax.
I'm 60.
Don't look a day over 50.
Yeah.
I went on job interviews and any place that had group and individual therapy, trying to do the work of recovery. And I went to a place in downtown Manhattan that smelled like urine because it was an old folks' home. And I was like, please, God, don't even ask me to work here. I went to a kid's place. So it was really kind of a despondent week. And I went on a job. I got accepted got called by a place called the Realization Center in New York. And I'm like, sweet. Okay. And it was in Union Square. A little nervous about Union Square. A lot of drugs in that park. The Washington Square Park was like weed city in a cloud of weed from the New York University kids.
You should see it now. I don't know when's the last time you've been. All of Manhattan sounds like it's all legal. It's weed shops everywhere.
Anyway, I go on this job interview, and the woman who was interviewing me said, she always used to call me honey. She says, honey, what's your clean time? What's your drug of choice? Are you still going to meetings? And I'm just like, whoa.
You just met.
I don't know if you saw me somewhere, but I'm just here for a job interview, And she was like, what did you think you were applying for? Group therapy, individual therapy. And she said, this is intensive outpatient for substance abuse. And I'm just like, I was just like, I'm your man. Give me a chance.
Yeah.
And she tossed me to the wolves. The next morning I had her group of clients who were private pay, very moneyed. I hope none of them are listening. They were gay, HIV positive meth users. Very particular group of like 12 guys. And I passed the audition, so to speak.
Nice.
And that was really life-giving for recovery.
Yeah.
My embrace of 12-step as a way of life. Just kept it alive, kept it fresh, kept it, constantly learning new stuff, reading new stuff. As teacher, I have a habit of, I like to keep reading new stuff to be current, if you will, or try a different angle. You know, if a group's not working, I'll try to chuck it or rework it or read something else and introduce it.
You never stop learning, huh? That's they say the definition of wisdom.
An old professor of mine, Jim Swift, he used to say that, would say every year before a new class, he would read a book on the topic that he hadn't read. That stuck with me.
I wish I could read more. I can read.
Can you?
I can.
You have the skills.
I've been told to read Richard Rohr.
Yeah, read.
So that's where you got your big taste of recovery work.
Really was, yeah. I mean, I one of my best friends was in recovery, Joe Conlon, and he talked a lot about it with me. But I had, was going to groups and had recovery types all over me. So
Okay. And when'd you get back to St. Louis?
2004. My sister had said to me that my mother had fallen, and I'm smiling. That's not something to be.
Yeah.
Oh, your poor mother. I'm not going to tell the story, but my sister has kind of an extreme reaction to everything. And
family like that.
He was like, "Well, I know that I experienced a death in my life, and 9/11 had happened." And she said, "I know you're looking for a new place to live. Your mother fell last week. This might be the last year of her life.
Wow.
You may want to come home and spend some time with Mom." She survived another 14 years, thank God.
Because you moved home.
Yes.
And I got to spend some really great time with my mom. But
you have a big family, right? You have a big Irish Catholic family.
There were 10 of us when I was born.
Gosh.
And I grew up with, there were 9 of us. There had been a fire at our house. My brother Johnny died in the fire. I don't remember it, but it was kind of like growing up with a ghost, if you will. I have never talked about this publicly.
Wow.
So that was part of my background, having this sort of ghost child in the family that everyone knew about, talked about. There were mementos of him. My brothers would tease me by there was this melted toy that was in his hand. And I think about it now, and it's kind of awful, but, they would shove it at you and say, it's his ear, it's his...
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Well, it's the grief of children.
Right.
Yeah, good point, yeah.
It's the, what do you do when you don't have a vocabulary?
Sure.
A horrible thing that just happened. This is my background as a therapist.
Yeah.
You trying to figure this terrible stuff out.
Very true. I mean, a house fire in itself is
horrible.
Right.
Yeah.
And we never talked about it.
That was healthy. It's easy for me to say now, but it was the norm.
Yeah.
I was going to say back then, but I'm not trying to Oregon Trail you. But you know what I mean.
Back in 18.
It was a house fire, not dysentery.
You had to get the covered wagon and get out of there. But sorry about that.
Yeah.
How old were you?
I was 18 months when the fire happened. So like I said, I don't remember it.
Body keeps score, right?
Thank you. Absolutely.
It's a book that Ashley read and told me about. She just texted me. She just texted me, "What? I'm dying," because I texted her that you know Richard Rohr. So sad to share that.
Yeah.
Shout out to all Richard Rohr fans.
Yeah. More than you think.
So I mean, that's traumatic. You moved back to St. Louis,
2004-ish, and just immediately got a job in the same thing. I was working at Bridgeway, which was subsumed into Preferred Family, and I discovered I'll just be honest, I wasn't making enough money. You move back from the Midwest, I was making gobs of money on the East Coast.
Sure.
Moved back, and like the first job I had offered was
the price of living. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah.
anyway, I won't go into details, but I took a second job doing Gateway Downtown, was DOC clients, which I was used to, federal parolees. And since for some strange reason I was familiar with meth and federal things that federal parole boards do, that it was an easy fit.
Sure.
So those guys were meth or cocaine. Long story short, there was an opening at their residential in Caseyville. I got hired there to make it more therapeutic. And it was years and years and years of resistance from even the people who hired me. But they handed me their family program, which was just a rudimentary kind of, hey, what do you all want to talk about kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing I remember keeping from it was an Ernie Larson or Terrence Gorski piece called The Roadmap of Recovery. And I just ended up creating my own 6-week curriculum.
So, well, yeah, I want to ask a question, and that's so sorry to interrupt. Maybe it's my ADHD or anxiety. That was a joke. We talked about. I guess that wasn't on air.
No,
but I do like this. So they asked you to take over their family program at some point. The importance of helping the addict. There's the whole family is such a important piece to this that is often missed.
Well, we're talking 2007, and one of the things I like to talk about is I don't like to talk about the number of epidemics I've lived through. Particularly with I'm old enough to remember AIDS, and I was in my losing of my virginity and exploring, dating world at that time, and a lot of stuff had to change for us to be able to address that.
Mm-hmm.
The Reagan administration didn't address it at all. Ronald Reagan didn't use the word at all. And the first AIDS was diagnosed maybe 79, 80. Wow. He entered office in 1980. Refused to use the word. We had to change how we addressed the epidemic.
Sure.
And the same thing, one of the things that happened with crack epidemic was that we didn't change. And a lot of people died and a lot of people went to prison. We steadfastly kept the, 3 strikes and you're out kind of rule. Meth came along and we started saying, this is an epidemic. Maybe we should change. Maybe we should try something different. So I entered into my work at Gateway was at that time of meth.
Okay.
I think after that was heroin. 2008, 2009, we started seeing the first real epidemic of heroin.
Sure.
And we had to change. We had to consider medication-assisted treatment. We had to consider different things like buprenorphine, Suboxone. We had to address it differently. And that's the only way you can deal with an epidemic, I think.
We're in the middle of one now. What'd you say?
No?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
So if you're going AIDS, crack, meth, heroin, you're in your 5th.
Yes. Well, let's remember we also had COVID.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And now we're looking at avian or bird flu. But just as a prime example, family therapy, I think, has been given emphasis as a result of heroin, the epidemic. We started taking it more seriously, and I started seeing how beneficial it was when I worked at Gateway, and people were just desperate for answers.
Like what? Like answers to why Johnny was shooting heroin?
Well,
the little Johnny.
Literally, the approach that we had at that time, and I talk about this in the groups with families, was, somebody's using in your presence, kick them out. not realizing how utterly callous that is to the family who have to wake up at 3 a.m. and wonder if their kid is dead. But it also does no good. I mean, if I'm an addict, I'm going to be like, score, I get 24 hours of reprieve. And then what? I might be dead. We had to confront a lot of pushback from recovery types even for Narcan. That was very controversial. I think Chad Sabora pretty much, single-handedly or maybe with a few other people kept pounding away at that in Jeff City and trying to get people to say, hey, if that's another, one of the changes is if you're dead, you can't recover.
And I mean, what was the pushback on Narcan for people that are listening?
You're giving them excuses.
And enablements? Like
they're just going to go get high because they know
they won't die?
Yeah.
You're taking away the death scare,
right?
Because that'll keep an addict from using.
Yeah.
That's just it.
Were you afraid to die?
Me, no.
I wanted to die.
Yeah, like that was
when I was at my worst drinking, I did not want to wake up. I was too big of a pussy to do it myself, but I did not want to wake up passing out drunk.
Yeah, see. Usually when you talk to any,
right?
Is I have any, definitely heroin, addict, fentanyl, and like active addiction, you're going to die does not make them get clean.
Right.
Statement doesn't work. Like all other factors will hit a lot harder.
Sure.
You're going to die. They don't. You don't care about yourself, or you don't have the self-worth to care about yourself. Maybe.
I can remember heroin wasn't my drug of choice. Opiates weren't my drug of choice, but I can remember them announcing, let's say, I'm just going to riff here. Anna, Illinois has an outbreak of dead, heroin deaths. You knew that there was going to be a whole bunch of addicts going to Anna.
Oh yeah,
to buy that.
No shit.
I was like,
that's like
dying. I want that stuff.
Anytime you hear anybody overdosing, you wonder like, well, who's their number? Not to avoid it.
That's wild. I never thought of that. Never heard that.
I think that there are different this is one of the things I love about working with addicts. There are different qualities as defined by the substance. The substance seems to pick the individual, but then it sort of warps individuals. So meth warps in a different way. Heroin, opiates warp in a different way. Alcohol warps in a different way. That kind of.
It's wild. So jump around a little bit. I get these calls a lot from. It's usually, I would say, more often from friends and family than the actual addict. Mm. The first call. We need to. What do we do? Right. And are you saying the hardest thing to do is talk to a mom? For me, I'll never be a mom. I have a son. I'm a dad. I'll never know what it's like to be a mom. I'm a mama's boy. So I get there's that motherly intuition. And I always say that the disease of addiction a lot of times flourishes in a mom's heart because of the counterintuitiveness it is for a mother to stop enabling. It's shelter. It's food. It's, stuff that moms are innately designed to do for their kids, no matter how old they are.
And even if they do the same things for your siblings who are not addicts, you will use those same things to kill yourself or to cause more havoc. Whereas the other kids are like, oh, thanks for the $20, Mom.
Right.
Go buy pizza.
Yeah. So to that point, when you're talking to a mom today, because of how deadly the synthetic shit is out there on the streets, deadlier than heroin, right? Do you tell them not to kick them out?
I don't.
Because that used to be that used to be a war cry. Like you got to tell them they can't.
Still is in most communities.
Yeah, you got to
take them out, cut them off.
No, I don't do that. I'll talk around it the way that I just did to say, you're the one who has to wake up at 3 a.m. and wonder where your kid is. I don't think you have to tolerate being treated badly or having a son or a daughter banging dope or snorting fentanyl in your house. But what I'm getting at is I don't pathologize families. We even have pamphlets from AA and NA where it's, capital D, denial, capital E, enabling, and I tell people these aren't diagnoses from the diagnostic manual. You're just trying to love somebody that's really hard to love right now. So it looks like you're enabling, but let's keep it at a small e, lowercase d for denial, lowercase c for codependent. I have a hard time with the way that we sort of rubber stamp people and say, "Oh my God, you're an enabler."
Sure. Well, that's why I go back to the mom. It's easy for me to say, and there is some low hanging fruit enabling going on, but it's easy for me to say who's not a mom, ever will be a mom, or the mom in this scenario. Just, so I try to just stop doing that. Like, it's cheap seat shit, in my opinion. But what, the boundaries are important.
Yeah.
The
again, to talk how the epidemic has changed our approach, I don't think that labeling of families, it's good to be educated on what's enabling. It's good to have somebody encourage everybody to be on the same page, present a unified front, right? But we've delved into things like the pious method, a way of communicating. We teach the families for one Saturday on keep it positive, make I statements, express understanding, and express that it's a shared experience. And so
that's the pious.
It's the pious method. It comes out of an organization called CRAFT, Community. I can't remember Community Recovery.
They all stand for something.
All these anagrams.
Got it.
That was the word you were looking for.
Yeah.
So repeat those.
They need tools. They don't need to be labeled with oh my God, I'm an enabler. I need to go to therapy. They need tools. How do you talk to an alcoholic who's saying, "Hey, I think I want to drink tonight"? Well, honey, I really like it when you're not drinking. I know how hard it is, how you've had a rough day, and we'll get through this together. We'll have iced tea. We'll have a movie night. But I really like it when you're not using. Simple tool. If you're in an addict's face, what happens when
right.
Like, ew, how's he no good? You just gave me an excuse to use.
I'm going to the tavern.
Yeah.
Doing a shot just to go fuck yourself. Yeah, I get it. No, serious. So, I mean, we could say there are people that are going to listen to this.
That's just one way that one of the pieces that we've included in the family counseling day
here at IRC.
Yeah.
I mean, in families who we're really doing this episode for, I may have said it last time. I say it often. It's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, but not. It's 1 degree of somebody that has somebody struggling with
totally
alcohol or addiction that is really close in their house. Maybe it's not a far reach. So if they're wondering right now,
let me ask you a question. Is the idea of the intervention still a thing? Like the way that you always see it? Like I said, I'm not an addict, so you see these on TV. Yeah, we're gonna have an intervention. We're gonna bring so and so to. I'm not a fan of it.
The one, I've done one intervention in my life that
but
fuck me in the.
I don't believe cornering somebody
right
is
catching
right
off guard.
Yeah, the worst experience of my life was to be a part of an intervention.
Yeah,
we had one of our team who's not there anymore was an interventionist before they came. And I spouted my mouth off about, statistics show that 99% of interventions fail.
Yeah.
He's like, wait a minute. I apologize, but, the numbers don't lie. I'm a huge fan of Dr. William Miller, who's got longitudinal studies from the 70s. He's been...
That's a big word. Longitudinal.
He's been studying alcoholics and addicts for years.
There we go. God, dumb it down a little bit, Doc.
His very data-driven studies have gone way back. Anyway, he talks about what works. Big motto of his: what works, what doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And he says it straight up: punishment and confrontation have never worked to stop people. Consequences do, but punishment and confrontation do not.
Tell it to my hockey coach to fucking fire pucks at my head. Thanks, Titus. Love you.
That's a consequence, though, Chris.
Oh, okay. All right.
Shut up.
What about bag skates? When you just throw a trash can in the middle of the ice and skate you for an hour until you fill the trash can with puke. That's awesome.
Really? That's something that happened to you?
Yeah. Do I feel like I need to talk to you about that?
Yes. Lay down on a couch.
I think they still do that.
Did he know that you were hungover at prep?
I'm pretty sure they knew. We got our ass beat.
But so punishment doesn't work, and yet it's our go-to
right
legally. conversation doesn't work.
Yeah.
And it's our go-to as families.
Yeah.
And of course, you want to slap the living daylights out of somebody who's relapsed again and again and again. But you have to remember, you're not going to get anything from this.
Yeah. So what do you, so if you're a family member, where do you start? I mean, if you're not saying, let's get this guy and lay out how this person has done, how they've affected my life. Unless there's a gentler way to do that.
Right. I'm pretty sure the start has already been going on for a year.
Okay.
And so families really do recognize this hasn't worked. Well, that didn't work. Well, enabling doesn't work, and denial doesn't work. And
right.
Putting him at grandma's house didn't work. I would highly suggest you call at IRC, and talk with people who are in recovery, people who know the thought processes and the line of BS that people can go into.
Which I believe that's what, like, intervention should switch to more one-on-one sit down with another person, like another addict usually preferred, because they want to see through the bullshit, and also the understanding.
Yeah.
Because I said bullshit. You said fuck a couple of minutes ago.
What?
I'm nervous. My hands are shaking.
Why?
Yeah, you keep fucking with the chords. Work hard on those.
Like any of this, but go.
Well, talk about that with your therapist. He hates the criminal justice system too. Just so you guys can talk about that.
Who does?
Chazzy.
Oh, let's talk.
He just thinks it's all fucked up. Which is
my therapist, Chaz, who is one of the best.
We're gonna have him on
anyway.
What about Al-Anon?
Oh, it's brilliant. It's wonderful. I tell people, like, I'm licensed in Illinois, and so I'm required to disclose what I get paid, or not what I get paid, what I get billed. I can bill for an intake. I bill $175 an hour. That's a shit ton of money, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
If I had to self-pay, I wouldn't be in therapy. Family sessions are $160. That's what the state of Illinois requires that I bill. Now, your insurance company gets to pay me whatever the hell they want to pay me. That's just it.
Fucking wonderful industry.
I'm not going to go into detail because I don't want to get thrown off the rules of any insurance. We love you, Blue Cross.
God, got a tattoo of Blue Cross on my ass cheek.
Okay. I heard that.
On my left ass cheek, Blue Cross on my right.
So what I do in one session, you probably will get in 3 free sessions at Allen.
What's Al-Anon?
Good question, Jeffrey.
What is it?
So Al-Anon is it's the family support group of alcoholics or addicts.
So first place I send a family member or loved one that I say, you need to go to an Al-Anon meeting.
If your family, do you have any family members that went to
my mother?
Yeah.
She went there, and then the poor Claires and prayed the fuck out of these candles and singing nuns.
And we're here today.
I'm here today.
All minor key shit, but I guarantee it.
Well, it's in Latin.
It's true.
I don't know. They could
very much the same thing as AA, but for the family and loved ones.
Okay.
Family and loved ones saved my mom's life.
Al-Anon did?
Not Al-Anon. She went to Smart Recovery Family and Friends, just a separate program, same concept.
And there's also Nar-Anon.
I was going to ask. Yeah, I thought there was.
But like for family members, when they're dealing with us addicts, they get a lot of shit or guilt, shame from their friends, right? Because they don't. Why do you keep doing that? Why do you keep Big E enabling is what they would call it, right? And that just makes, so I'll use my mom as an example. We've had loads of talks about this where she can't now vent anywhere. Because anywhere she vents, she just gets shit back that she can't do. She couldn't just stop talking to me. I'm her number one favorite son. I got 3 brothers. But now that gave her a place where she can actually be honest.
Yeah.
With other feelings, and then get real feedback what other people have done, was worked, not worked for them.
Right.
But that big contributor is my mom was close to death, I'm pretty sure, at the end of my road.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what kind of saved her. Took a lot of weight off of her in her daily life.
I think it was an Al-Anon. They told my mom to quit giving me money, and I had money. I was getting money. And then so she would get me, like for birthdays and stuff, gift cards to Aldi because she thought Aldi didn't serve alcohol. Well, I mean, but then she's like, okay, I said at Al-Anon, you're just freeing up money for alcohol. So my mom was a little naive, but
yeah,
God bless her.
Hard liquor at Aldi.
Well, what happens when you're just talking with friends is the subject is no longer my son is an addict and it's killing me to what's wrong with you? Why are you letting your son do that? Or why are you letting your daughter do that? You know, so when you go to Al-Anon, people get it.
They're in the pit with you.
Yeah.
But
again, you know, the therapy is great. I want everybody to go to therapy, of course.
I tried to refer you like 6 people last week. You said you're full.
I am.
Oh, I thought I thought you were saying come.
Yeah.
We can put your website out there.
But yeah, Al-Anon is the basket goes around. You chuck $1 or $5 into the basket, but essentially it's free.
Yeah.
And you do 3 sessions. You have the support. You feel better. You feel like there's a solution. That's one of the overarching things that I hate about this disease is families feel so hopeless and helpless.
Right.
And I try to make it real clear, you know, we're here to let you know that it isn't hopeless and helpless.
So that's one of the missions.
Yeah.
That's powerful stuff because, and I've heard this statistic and it's been repeated in places that I trust that are not corroborated that, you know, every average addict has 7 people in their lives that their disease is impacting. So when you get clean and sober, you have the opportunity to transform 7 lives, which is powerful. But, you know, I often hear on tours or when we talk about the family program, even Eric say that, you know, there is a myth that if Chris goes to rehab, the whole family just magically is better, right?
No,
Opposite, but
the metaphor that I use, and yes, I'm going to go back to age. I remember when the Berlin Wall fell and when the Soviet Union fell, and
Mr. Gorbachev, bear down.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Kevin's politics are starting to seep through the podcast here a little bit.
I have a lifelong resentment towards Ronald Reagan, and that was because of the AIDS epidemic. But
fair.
The point was, I remember thinking, and I like geography. I've always been fascinated with Russia, Siberia, and it was like, oh man, we're going to have tourism. We're going to have businesses back and forth. You know, we'll be able to take the rivers on, you know, I always wanted to go up the Danube and all that kind of stuff. That's not what happened, is it? You know, as soon as the iron fist, that structure, that abusive structure was gone, those nation states started tearing each other apart. Without a problem, sometimes families can tear each other apart. You know, I'm not saying you're going to be running through the streets with a machete or a farm implement trying to kill your neighbor.
some might.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some.
Oh, I mean, that's why we have people
Jefferson County, Franklin County,
Bosnians in South City, because that's what happened to them.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, somebody decided that you killed our 800-year-old saint, and we remember it. And just because the Soviet Union's gone doesn't mean we don't still have a resentment. Families will sometimes think, okay, now what do we do without a problem? We need a new problem. Sometimes families will, without even saying it, feel better if the alcoholic is still drinking. They don't know quite what to do with them. So.
I've encountered that before.
Or what will often happen is, I mean, in a beautiful situation, people get therapy. You know, Johnny's grades come up. You know, Johnny feels he's getting attention and affirmation. But a lot of times it's people just start going at each other, you know. And so I put it out there. Just be careful. You're so used to having a problem, you might not know what it's like to just not have a problem anymore.
Just hearing that has got to be at least because you don't think that.
Right.
You certainly don't think that about your family. You're, I'm not going to do that. Right. But if somebody says it, you're like, oh shit, I better.
Al-Anon will say the addict owns the family, and that's exactly what they mean. Just because you got sober doesn't mean the whole family is like, oh, good, they're done. You know?
Yeah.
They're all looking at their dysfunctional roles, that kind of stuff.
So here at IRC, as part of the family program, there's visitation on one day a week, Wednesdays, and then on Saturdays is our family program.
Yeah.
And to participate in that, what's the protocol?
Typically, the It's for adults or anybody, like, I think we said over 12.
Yeah. 12.
Oh, so okay. I was going to ask that. Give a tour today. There was one of the catalysts of change is the daughter of the addict, and the daughter is maybe late high school, so would be very interested in participating probably in this.
Absolutely. So visitation is just on Wednesday is just open, 3 to 5, I think.
Yeah.
Saturday, the groups that we do with the clients in the morning are they're tailored for, like tomorrow we're doing internal family systems, which is a theoretical framework for understanding your own internal family stuff. But we're also doing attachment theory, attachment disorders. So it's like family dynamics.
Everybody should take this shit.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, it really is helpful.
Does the family and the client together in this? In these?
Oh, not in the morning.
Okay.
So you arrive at 12:30 as a family member. I think they're allowed 2 or 3.
About 2 or 3. Right. Anything over 2, you have to get approval. But Kevin doesn't say no to people.
I don't say no.
So that's the Saturday thing.
Yeah.
This is the Saturday.
The Saturday thing. Yeah.
It's geared for family.
Yeah.
Family dynamics and family group education, counseling. So they have a group with, when we started, it was Katie O'Malley. And now we have Mary R. She does a group with the families all by themselves, and they get a chance. This is something that Jacob started when we were out Sauna Lake. He and I worked on the Sauna Lake family therapy, and I really feel like we hammered out the basics of a damn good plan together.
I hate when he gets praise.
His fingerprints are all over some of my
His best words.
Yeah.
So is this like an MLA? That's a bibliography.
He may not be able to press buttons right, but he can change lives.
His idea was to
Can't figure out this fucking podcast.
His idea was to give a place where the families would be able to just, I need to ask a question or I have concerns. And Jacob always was really gifted at eliciting that kind of stuff from them. Or it's a place for an addict to tell their story about recovery, which is very encouraging for the families, I think. I do educational but practical pieces, so like the pious method, teaching them how to communicate, talking about what doesn't work. Tomorrow we're doing a contract for returning home, which is like a written document that you come up with based on your experience of the addict.
Right. So Kevin's group too is the client and the family all together.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's what I was curious about.
Yeah. So when I tell people about it, and I say, there's education for the family without the client and the client by themselves and then together. That sounds
Yes.
Right.
And that contract they work on is that boundaries, written ground rules of wherever we're. If I'm going back to mom's,
it's morphed over the years, and a lot of times it's at suggestions of family members. So we, like for instance, the first, they're conversation starters. So it's, how should we treat you? You tell us how we should treat you if you relapse. How
interesting.
You own it. You've got some skin in the game. It's not just us punishing you. It's not just kicking you out. You tell us what to do. So we have like A, B, and C in terms of what to do.
Yeah, I mean it's just so much more involved than what people don't know about this. Like I'm telling you, when I talk to families and moms and brothers and sisters and whoever, loved ones, partners, they don't know this level of communication. It's often not talked about. It's avoided. Even when there was so much, even when I got out of treatment, and it's not to my mom or sister's fault, but there was some tiptoeing. They didn't know it was eggshell.
Don't make him relapse.
It was definitely holding me like an egg and not what
fear driven type of.
And it wasn't talked about. It wasn't, they just did not, they were so prayerful that I did not have another drink.
Nobody was there to tell them,
Right.
hey, this is what you should do. Try this.
Right. And I'm, thanks to God, a success story, I guess, today, one day at a time. But, and my mom was great. My sister, I had a great network, but yeah, nobody knew this stuff. Nobody knew this stuff. I didn't, they didn't. I didn't want them to ever think I was drinking. So I was making, there was some anxiety with it. Yeah, but it it's empowering to hear for families, I imagine.
That's what I think we aim at being empowering, just the polar opposite of hopeless and helpless.
I always say knowledge is power. And there's so many people that are, and you say the word ignorant, people think of like obnoxious behavior, ignorant of and uneducated of what the disease of addiction looks like, what little Johnny's going through.
Mm-hmm. Right, which that's kind of like the peer support side of that's what like Mary and Katie are doing here. What I did, me and Kevin kind of I did the peer side, where one thing I learned very quickly doing it is that almost 90% of the family members had no idea what recovery looked like. They all know what active addiction looked like. I don't need to teach them what active addiction is.
Living it.
But they need to see what actually recovery looks like.
That's a great point.
And that's through like, I would share like, bits and pieces of my story with them about like my bad side of addiction, like what the bad things I did, what was going on through my head during it, but also like what recovery looked like afterwards. And
yeah,
I did a lot of bad shit.
And they know, they were
the
receiving ends of most of it.
So then I'd share with them like how me and my mom worked through, because me and my mom, huge.
I love your mom.
Making it back now. She's a saint. She loves when I say that. She says she replayed it last time I said it like 5 times.
That's my girl. She's a big blues fan.
But and the families, what I learned too doing that peer side of it is like they need not to have the client in the room.
Yeah.
Because I remember the first time out at Sana when we did the family program together, I did my part with the clients and family in the room all with me. And then I let the families use me as a question board. Like they can ask me whatever you want about addiction, recovery. Like I'll answer 100% open to you about my story. Not going to talk about the client, but I'll tell you my side of it all and what I believe. And then all my questions were like, I'm just so proud of Johnny for making the step towards recovery. I'm like, that's not what you want to ask.
Right.
So then the next week I said, no more clients, only family members. And then that's like where like the real questions started to come up. Because families are, like you said, they're scared of saying like, I'm going to say something that upsets them. And he's going to go use over it, and I'm too scared to say it. So they really need that safe spot for them to openly share about their shit without worrying about offending the client or upsetting them.
Well, that's what I was curious too. This isn't just a one-day thing? Is it every Saturday while the client is in?
Every Saturday with a different curriculum every Saturday.
I think it's like 8 weeks.
Right.
Curriculum created.
8 weeks.
7.
7?
I have a 7th week.
We'll call it 8.
Well, the clients are there for anywhere from 28 to 35, 40 days.
The 8th week's just a pizza party.
No, we watch Intervention.
That's funny.
Dr. Drew or something.
Better than Fear and Loathing.
Right.
Oh my God, or Requiem for a.
Oh, The Dream. Yeah, Jennifer Connelly.
Some of those movies are just so triggering. But anyway,
the actress, not my business partner's sister. The actress. There's also named Jennifer Connelly.
Oh, funny. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, different spelling.
Yeah.
Do you, when people come in here, is it off? I'm wondering, I'm assuming, know what that does, but it could be the first time. Is it the first time for a lot of these families to have approached
at these days? I would have to, I'm going to say 20%. It's the first time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wait, you like first time to like be set in a therapy setting, like as a family?
Well, I think our program's pretty darn unusual, and I think it's in the minority. I don't think anybody has a program like ours. There might be one or two. Well, I'll take that back. The couple of books that I have, like
I love you so much.
Jason has a pretty elaborate family program up in Idaho. What's it called?
Idaho Judo. Sorry,
that's not what it's called. But.
Red Barn or Red Mill.
Wait, so what? So I'm asking is what's the percentage of families that come to our and that sit down with you? Is it the first time that they've sat in a family therapy session?
That's pretty much first timers.
So you would say that's what I was getting.
So we do group from 9 to 11, and then I have 2 hours to have family sessions, and then we do group from 1 to 2 to 3, and I've got 3 family sessions set up after that.
It's an all day.
It's an all day thing, yeah.
And then you sometimes have a speaker.
Yeah, we have right now a grief speaker talking about the loss of their son, which is
dear friend. Yeah, that's why. I mean, but I want to have her on, tell that story. It's she's a warrior, man. But so and I think that story is super impactful.
So it's not required that they do individual therapy with me or family therapy with me.
The families.
It's afforded to them and anybody who wants to. So
okay.
They sign up or they tell their counselor during the course of the week that they want to have a family session. I just had somebody call me today and ask somebody who left treatment, AMA, and asked if they could see me in private practice. So,
what about somebody that comes to treatment, comes to IRC, and it comes from a real abusive or a using environment?
Oh yeah,
or both.
I've seen it, but I've seen it all. That's a silly thing to say. I've literally, I used to give this out as a sort of conversation starter with groups. It was statements that I've heard family members say. And it's all the, terrible things, like my son doesn't have a drinking problem. And when I pick him up, I'm going to take him straight to a bar. Like somebody who's in treatment for 45 days for alcoholism.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Who's suffering? Who's in denial here?
Disease is a myth, that kind of stuff. But I've also, I've heard people say things like, the only thing in my town is meth. There's no way to not do meth in my town. But there's the old fashioned, my family are dope dealers. My dad's a meth cook, or my uncle is a pot dealer. None of it is insurmountable. You get a solid base of support. You get your accountability partners through AA or NA or SMART or the myriad other groups that are out there. That it tends to be, I don't know, it falls into the category of terminal uniqueness, right? There's a lot of meth in Potosi, Missouri. I apologize to Potosi, Missouri. I owned property there. Rid of the property because of the meth use in my property. But it's not impossible. They also have NA and AA meetings in Potosi, Missouri, right?
So, I mean, what if the family members that are the ones saying these, I mean, are they participating? Are they trying to learn? Are we trying to educate?
It's my job. It's mine and Mary's, and it was Katie's job. It used to be Jacob's job to talk some sense into that.
Yeah.
Address it. I had those list of things that I'd heard families and addicts say so that we could, sort of bust the myth, right?
Sure.
The idea that your son is different than you, right? Your son is going to die if he keeps drinking and if you facilitate it. Your experience of alcohol is not the same as his experience of alcohol. My, a sibling who had an experience of cocaine when they were in college is not the same as my brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you have a relative who quit drinking just because, it doesn't necessarily mean that they were alcoholic. We have a lot of people will bring their experience, and either some of it minimizes or they're ready to dismiss outright certain things they've heard, like the disease model or things like. It's usually the disease model.
They don't like this sometimes.
Aunt Mabel had cancer. That's a real disease. You don't have a disease. Okay.
Doc.
It's according to the American Medical Association. Okay.
One thing I would always say, like, it worked really well for me and my mom. So one thing I would do in the family program, like my objective, it used to, like, I always wanted to think in my head, like, I want my mom to understand me. And then we would always have really big conflicts trying to understand each other. Like, my mom's not an addict. I don't understand how she gets Percocets from a doctor. She takes one, don't like it, throw the bottle away.
No shit.
Also, she don't understand how I get Percocets from the doctor. I sell them all for heroin. So
That's a tough.
the understanding was like something that we could not reach. So we went more towards like, well, we're going to find a way to accept that you're different than me. I have to accept she's different than me. She has to accept I'm different than her. And so that became our objective of the goal for our relationship, was just acceptance, not understanding. And then once we started looking at it that way, that's when our like relationship started making strides, like getting a lot better. So that's kind of what we want to push for family members too. It's not just the understanding, it's more of accepting they're different. They have this disease. We have to accept that.
Are you able to spot, and is this part of it, if it's a vetting process, if, you know, some forbid a poor, you know, a young lady comes into treatment and is going back to an abusive situation, that abusive situation wants to participate in the family program?
From my perspective, the way that the team is set up, you know, there would be knowledgeable people.
Right.
Abuse, even if it's
Sure.
to rise to the level of battering, you know, battered woman syndrome. You know, we have a fairly knowledgeable team, and, you know, it's case management, it's substance abuse, it's peer, it's family counseling. I don't think anything falls through the cracks there. I make it clear I never use the family sessions for an intervention, like a gotcha moment. You know, we need to talk about how you're beating this young lady.
Sure.
That never would happen. That's confrontational. That kind of thing would need to be addressed.
Yeah.
Not just like, why are you still with this person? But
Right.
are you familiar with battered woman syndrome? Do you know the reasons why people stay in abusive, toxic relationship kind of stuff?
It's not uncommon. I mean, that, and then the trafficking shit going on, it's horrible. So you never know. And that's what I tell people, I mean, with the team here, and especially going through a family program, that it's hard. Something like that comes up. We said it today in the tour that we prepare for the client's departure upon arrival, which means we're caseworkers. What does the next step look like outside of inpatient? Whether it's sober living, is it redirecting instead of back into an environment like this? There, you know, and odds are that it you know, like you said, it's going to be safeguarded because of all the eyes in the team that is in place. That if someone's out there that isn't in a situation like that comes here, they're in a safe fucking place and there's help. And I think because of the extra layers of this family program, it could prevent being, you know, discharged, or when you graduate here, going back into the same shit environment.
Right.
Whether it's, you don't want to, you know, the old street terms, you don't put the crackhead back in the crack house, right? I mean, you get it, but what I'm getting at here, and I think by the time they complete treatment here and the family program, you're equipped with the right direction, the groups, the living options to succeed and really have a good, joyful life in recovery.
If you want it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, what we try to do is and you can add to this if you want, we have to cover certain issues, right? We have to talk about certain issues that you might not realize are triggers. You might not realize you're holding on to, like last week we did a group on sex and recovery, and holding on to a toxic relationship may be your addict's way of staying having access to a substance, right? So I tell myself that I want to be in this relationship, or that I really enjoy parts of this relationship, but really it's because at the end of the day, I'm going to get a good excuse to go use. And people don't consider that. That's all really new information for people. talking about your triggers is just like, what's that?
By the time I checked into rehab, my part didn't even work. Then inappropriate. Well, but I will tell you this: when I started getting feeling back, I wanted to fuck my first therapist. Did I say that?
That's where you took that conversation?
And Mr. Jones really...
I sent her flowers and like a rock climbing thing at Arca. I didn't realize they had boundaries. You people and your boundaries. Started getting feeling back. I was ready to go.
I've heard you tell that story before, and I think it's wonderful that that's the context of it. You don't beat yourself up.
Right. I mean, it's a good thing.
Less otherwise, but just the idea that, yeah, that's what it was. I didn't like fall in love. I just had feelings again.
But it had been a long time, a couple of years probably, since I was not just, I was just every emotion I was medicating away in a bottle of plastic jug of rich and rare whiskey that was $9.99 a gallon and a half. But seriously, but I will say you see that a lot with what they call the 13 step.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Feelings start coming back, and adults and it just, so that I'm glad that you to your point, things like that are addressed.
Did you want to add?
He's still a virgin.
Yeah.
He can't speak to this.
When I engage in a group where I introduce that idea of how the families can be like Russia and the fall of the Soviet Union, that, when you give people the opportunity to talk about that, you really get some deeper considerations. The other group that really digs into that is when we talk about trauma in the internal family systems. Man, I always give them the opportunity to write on the back of a piece of paper, say, this isn't going into your notes, but I want to hear, where are your exiles? Because your trauma causes these little mini versions of yourself that are exiles. Tell me what happened. How old were you? And what have you used? Did you overmanage in order to keep the exile out, or did you create the fire starter to keep the exile out? I know I'm using a theoretical framework that we haven't really delved into, but when people get to talking about their trauma at 6 and their trauma at 7 and their trauma at 12 and their trauma at 30,
God,
that is like a week's worth of pretty deep, they've got some journaling and some therapy sessions coming because they really need to open up. And especially then, the guys in the group, I'm almost in tears every time I do that group, because I'll go home at night and I'll go through the papers that they've given me, and I'm just like,
oh boy,
holy shit.
I wonder why therapists need therapists.
Right, thank you.
Yeah.
That's I always get bitched at by my therapist that she calls it the doorknob conversation, because I will bullshit for 54 minutes. Oh, by the way, the last minute I'm like, yeah, I was doing fucking blow off this hooker's ass when I was 15. I'll see you later. I'll see you next Tuesday. Yeah.
Amazing.
That's what they call it.
Did you just say see you next Tuesday?
That's not no any connotation, but
it's okay.
It's very second nature.
Right. Yeah. I guess I'd have to go be all inappropriate. It is that's got to be tough to bear all that, but that's why clinicians are a strange bunch.
Special, but
we talked about this earlier. There are certain jobs that are clearly vocations. I cannot work in a hospital. I will not work in a mortuary. I do not work with children. I had to work with kids when I was first. I worked with kids in the public grade schools on the East Coast. And I'm just like, hold your breath till you're 18. That's my advice. I don't know. Go out of state for college. Don't look back. That's not good advice when you're 13.
Oh, I hope Charlie's not listening. Yeah,
but those are vocations, and
or calls maybe.
I think of it as a calling, yeah. And I feel like this is my calling.
Yeah, I mean, from what I know, being married to one, they don't make. It's not about the 401k and the stock options when
You need to try private practice.
she's you got to up her client list. She sees a couple
I really, and not that I'm here to talk about me.
Absolutely.
You know, the low self-esteem that comes from addiction, and the sense of being unworthy kept me attached to clinical jobs that didn't pay a whole lot. It was safe also. I was afraid to branch off and believe in myself and believe that, like, I will have clients. There will be a source of it.
And you are making a difference.
Well,
You are.
I don't like.
Did you hear me?
I heard. But I don't want to give it up. I love my private practice, but I don't like being out of the clinical setting. I love. Saturday is the highlight of my week.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
You're not here on Saturday.
keeping them around. Dude.
Right. He's not there on Saturdays.
Will it pop in one day?
I think that it's the program itself is, I scream it from a mountaintop. It's what separates us from name that other facility.
Passages at Malibu.
No, what was the one I chirped online? Nikki Glazer was on the pie. We talked.
Dream something.
I was like the luxury rehab in Beverly Hills that I may or may not be there anymore because of the fires. But
And it may be a great program. We don't know. So
I just commented. I said, if you want a rehab you can afford, call Illinois Recovery Center.
One of my favorite guys at Earl Hightower is out in California. He can't be all bad.
Is that the priest?
No.
Who's the
Richard Rohr,
Earl Hightower from Police Academy? Remember those?
The guy that makes the noises.
Wow, wow, wow. No, I don't think that was Hightower. The
keep trying.
who is I thought it was a priest that hangs out with the gangs or the homeless and the
I do.
you probably Chaz loves him, Ashley loves you.
Yeah,
I'm talking about. You guys are the same ilk.
Remember his name? I think, was he the one that committed suicide though?
Oh fuck. Way to take that dark. Sorry. I don't know.
Sorry, Chaz.
Maybe. I don't know. But it's for the families out there that have been through this and are still healing, but especially the ones that are not knowing where to go, who to call, what to do, which is an overwhelming majority, I think, of people. Anytime you talk about addiction, alcoholism, everybody's eyes, I mean, you could just see them picturing who they're, they got somebody in the thing. And there's such a, I think, is it fear the right word? They're very scared of even admitting it themselves that they have somebody that's really struggling, and then what they have is paralyzed with inaction. Is what I usually see. Just not knowing what to do.
I agree. I think people intuitively know that they know that there's a problem, even if they don't want to say that it's a problem. They don't want to give it that label because there's so many judgments about it.
Sure.
And without the proper label, you're left with all of these non-working solutions to a label that you're refusing. Without the proper diagnosis, you just keep saying, well, he's just a problem drinker. He's a high-functioning alcoholic. He's a high-functioning crack smoker. And without somebody saying he's an alcoholic, he's a substance use disorder severe. You stay in that sort of, I think, limbo, that gray area where it's like, well, we don't really have to change. I think people know that once you get that diagnosis, once you recognize it, you got to change.
Right.
And so people avoid it.
And that goes for the family too.
I was saying the addict and the family avoids it. I was speaking specifically of the family.
Yeah.
People don't want to say, yeah, this means you're going to groups. It means we got to decide what we do at weddings. We got to keep an eye on you on holidays, that kind of thing. As if they didn't already keep an eye on them at holidays, at weddings.
Right. That's funny you say that. They're already been walking on eggshells and tiptoeing around the 800-pound gorilla.
It still amazes me when I have that group where we talk about walking on eggshells and the elephant in the room and how much energy people do the side eyes on, their addict, how much time they spend. And people are just like, wow, I never heard that before. I'm like, where have you been?
I mean, and they're talking about
life. You've been doing this.
The last 6 Christmas Eves. So it's, right. I mean, you remember the last 6 Christmas Eves when Chris was shit-faced and falling into meatballs?
But isn't that the
6 years?
The colloquial definition of insanity that we get out of recovery. They've been doing it so often that they're habituated to it.
It's their normal.
This is their normal.
Yeah.
We have to keep an eye on Chris. And then Christmas comes along and they're just like, well, that was weird Christmas because Chris was sober.
Yes.
Wasn't the life of the party. And
the meatball wasn't under the mistletoe with the fucking photographer.
Chris made the meatballs this year.
Damn right. They turned out great too.
Did they?
Yeah, absolutely. Fuck kind of questions.
We make them all the time.
I bought them in a bag.
Frankly, the Aldi ones are pretty
so offensive.
They are. I'm sorry.
You guys are starting to really piss me off.
I'm going to have you over and have Aldi meatballs, and you're not going to know.
It's not going to happen. Watch me. Watch me go.
And peppers last night.
Look at you.
Hell yeah.
Kevin, this has been pretty great. We could order pizza. I could do this all night.
Yeah.
Talk. I mean, like I said, anytime you're talking, I'm learning. You are a breath of fresh air and a gift, man. I appreciate it. I think what I call you on the first podcast, you made a comment about it. Was it a fucking genius?
Yeah.
Like, wow.
No, I get the feedback we get. The most feedback I personally get about the treatment program here at IRC is Sarah's cooking. She's a good cook, and the family program.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Without a doubt. And then having a personal thank you for taking such good care of Becky and Mike that come in, and dear friends of mine who've lost a son, Jordan, who was 26 2 years ago, had some clean time, and one relapse shouldn't be a fucking death sentence, and ripped her heart out, and her way to fight back is just to talk to parents and moms, and you can see her connect. I was there the first time she did it to support her. Doesn't need my support. She's a fucking badass. And she's raw, and she looks at moms in the eye.
Yeah.
And what could be more impactful than that?
And I want to say, I want her there for her, because the grief process in the United States, we do grieving so badly, so miserably.
And you get 3 days of bereavement leave.
Oh, well, yeah, it's done.
All good.
Well, you used to, anyway.
Hey,
We'll see. Sorry, Jeff.
Back to work.
Talk.
Jeff the liberal.
But I think there's a fine line between, with a trauma, you can engage the narrative, and you're on a spool, you're on a record, right? And you repeat it and you repeat it and you repeat it, and that's not helpful. That's essentially ruminating, which is what cows do. The telling of your loss and feeling it and seeing how your story can benefit others, as the promises say, is beautiful. And I really love the impact that it has on our families when she shares, when she and Mike are here. But I want it to be for her too.
Well, I can tell you that it is that's a two-way street. And I think that goes for, and I've said this before, any of us in recovery, or not, service work, whether it's serving a church or a charity nonprofit or helping other addicts find a better life. I mean, it is part of the liturgy. It's part of, and for me personally, I say this all the time, it gets me out of my fucking head when I'm focusing on serving others. I fail forward. I try to fail forward, and I fail every day, but that's the method, and it helps me heal, whether it's, and I've seen people that have lost, multiple people have lost children, which is the most unbearable thought. And the only thing that gets them out of bed is starting a foundation in their kid's name, or serving and trying to educate and break stigma here, and fighting this disease like Becky does. It's to use a phrase you've used. I heard it. I must be a therapist saying my wife say it often. I've adopted it because I'm soft and sweet boy, life-giving. And it's service work. Serving others is a life-giving activity. And spend a lot of time doing activities that are quite the opposite. So I do appreciate you coming in tonight on a Friday night.
Yeah.
We did this. Sorry we got started a little late.
I'm not sorry. He's staring across the table at you again.
But we got it working. Let's hope this thing recorded.
Try.
Oh, somebody's ass is going to get beat.
Oh, boy. But Kevin, thanks a lot.
Having me on. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you more than you know. I know I speak for Jacob and Eric. Glad you two got to meet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You two are cut from the same cloth.
Literally.
Nice, kind
what
heart.
the hell that means.
Nice, kind hearts.
Yeah.
Empathetic human beings.
Very artsy.
You both like music.
Richard Rohr. Absolutely.
And Richard
Rohr.
Yeah, so thanks for coming in. We'll post this, be up on all the podcast platforms.
Mm-hmm.
And gotta plug our sponsor that is responsible for presenting our guests, Bertarelli Cutlery.
Love that place.
Bertarelli Cutlery. I know Marco well.
Knives sharpened there.
They sharpen knives. They do mostly restaurants and now homes.
They did a great. I did a side gig with upholstery some time ago, and we used to get our scissors sharpened there.
Really? Yeah. I mean, I've seen the operation. What's really cool about Bertarelli is that they've hired. I mean, it's a small shop on the hill, family owned. They've owned it for a century from Italy. And there's assembly lines where they run the sharpening the knives, and they've been a partner of ours. If client graduates IRC and is looking for work, they've been the first place we send them, and it's super helpful, and helping break stigma, because who wants, I'm not gonna hire somebody out of rehab. Well, somebody took a chance on me and this fucking guy down on the other corner. So it's BertarelliCo.com, BertarelliCo.com. And they service 1,200 plus restaurants in the Metro East and St. Louis area. I think they've gone up to Edwardsville North.
Wow.
And then, out in BFE, Missouri, Potosi, meth capital.
Sorry, Potosi.
I don't know if they go as far as Potosi, but
They do they go out to the restaurants and do the sharpening on the spot?
So they pick up your knife, they bring you sharp knives, pick up your knife, you get you on a rotation. So you will pick them up like on a Monday. They'll swap out your old knives with sharp knives, and then they'll just get you on a rotation. They're on 1927 Marconi Avenue on the Hill, St. Louis, Missouri. Ask for Marco. I gave out his steaks. They have a retail shop where you can get mixers and other kitchen equipment, and then Wusthof knives and steak knives, and we use their steak knives for everything, and they'll slice your finger right in half if you're not careful. So it's a good knife.
I need some new steak knives.
Bertarelli Cutlery.
I'm gonna go.
Maybe Marco will hook you up. Kevin, thanks again, man. God bless you and all the work you do, transforming lives one day at a time. So I appreciate you guys. Thanks for listening to Pondoff Anonymous, episode 3, season 2. Follow us, like us, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your side pieces.
We're on TikTok now.
We're on TikTok. Wait, I thought we shut that down.
No.
I can't keep up with.
Do you want
Trump saved TikTok?
He did.
Just kidding.
Awesome.
We'll cut that out.
No, we won't.
Anyway, yeah, so follow us, like us, subscribe, tell your barber, don't tell your dealer, get clean, get sober. Let us pray.